I'm going to be honest. I really want to get my hands on your business, and not in the way that might sound, but I do want to help. Not in a detached, listen to my podcast and hopefully you'll get some golden nuggets out of it way. I want us to work together. I want to be involved. And there are some of my programs and packages that allow us to work in that way together to really align your strategy, your actions, and your goals. So if you know that now is the time to get stuck into your business strategy, to get mentorship, support, and hand-holding, as well as practical advice and feedback, I would love for us to explore how we might be able to do that together. Whether it's joining my takeoff program to get you to the point where you are attracting leads and making sales more consistently, whether it's through the accelerator to help you really narrow in on where your leverage points are to scale your business beyond 6 figures and further, or whether it's that high touch, high connection, one-on-one experience of working together as a VIP. I invite you to send an email to me at support@tashcorbin.com. Tell me what your goals are, tell me what you need help with, and let's look at how we might be able to work together. I would love to provide the mentorship, guidance, feedback, and advice that you need to know exactly where you need to focus right now to get it implemented and done, and to get your business taking off and scaling. There's no obligation and there's no hard selling. I genuinely just want to make sure that I'm across what's going on for you and that you know what the options are for us to potentially be working together. And of course, if I have free resources that might be able to support you, I will point you in the direction of those as well. So get in touch, send that email to support@tashcorbin.com, and I really look forward to hearing from you. Before we dive into this week's episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast, I would like to acknowledge last week's episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast. Look, I know it was different. It was a tone. It was, let's just say, a little less subtle, a little less nurturing, and a little less gentle than you're probably used to from me. And as I said at the end of that episode, I apologize for the tone, but I don't apologize for the message. Look, was I premenstrual? Maybe. Had I run a late night netball training session with a bunch of 12-year-olds who were a little too excited for the upcoming Easter school holidays and very wild and unruly? Yes, look, I'd lost my voice a little. I was in a bit of a mood, but ultimately, I hope that we can all appreciate that sometimes when Aunty Tash loses her cool a little, the rant and the message are important. They come from a very loving place, even if they don't sound like they are. And I hope that if you have found yourself a bit frazzled, bit overwhelmed, bit feeling like you are on the hamster wheel, that at least it gave you some kind of fire up moment in this fire horse year to do something about it. Okay? Now, coincidentally, this episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast is going to be about overwhelm. And so if you still feel like you are in that space of there's just too many things and everything is overwhelming me for whatever reason, be it the world, be it the Lego you stepped on this morning, whichever it is in between, this episode of the podcast I think is going to be super helpful. This is episode number 526, which means you can find all of the links and show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/526. And in this episode, I'm going to help you to work out what to do when you feel overwhelmed by all the things. So let's dive in. Hello, I'm Tash Corbin, a business strategist and mentor based on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. The mission of this podcast is to help heart-centered entrepreneurs to make more money, and in doing so, change the world for the better. This podcast was recorded on the lands of the Gubbi Gubbi and Jinnaburra people. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. I don't need to describe overwhelm. I don't need to describe why it's so disempowering and debilitating. I think that when you feel overwhelmed, you know you feel an overwhelm. I think that when you feel overwhelmed, you know how much it has a full-on impact on every element and component of your life. I've definitely felt those feelings myself in the last few weeks here and there. So what I wanted to do in this episode is just dive straight on in. What are the steps to getting yourself out of overwhelm, especially when the number one thing is just volume? There's just too much. And your brain is starting to shut down. Your brain is starting to struggle to be able to even remember all the things, let alone prioritize and execute on them. So, number one, regulate. Overwhelm equals amygdala running the show. Your back of your brain, your reptilian brain, your keep me safe above all else brain is running the show when you experience overwhelm. Your nervous system needs to be regulated for you to be able to think clearly. It's been scientifically proven. So you might decide that sitting at your desk, punching your keys, writing an email to your list will fix your overwhelm, but you are kidding yourself. You might think staring at your phone screen, trying to come up with the magical words to put on that Instagram caption is going to at least get you some relief. You're actually kidding yourself. The caption you write, the email you send, whatever you work on, when you do it from a space of overwhelm, is not going to be your best work. It's not even going to be in your top 50% of your work. So rather than force yourself to work through it, take the time to regulate. I have learnt this lesson the hard way, and I really wish I'd paid attention. Do you remember the Snickers ads? This is going to maybe not transcend all countries, but I remember there was a Snickers ad. It had Betty White in it. Oh, rest in peace, Betty. And it was Betty White was picking a fight with a bunch of dudes playing basketball or something. And then one of the guys is like, hey, come on. You're not you when you're hungry, and hands her a Snickers, and then she magically transforms back to their friend. It's like, you're not you when you're hungry. And it's the same thing when it comes to overwhelm and being in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, being in that really overloaded, dysregulated state. You're just not yourself. You're not your best self. You're not your brightest self. Your brain is not switched on to make smart, strategic decisions. It is going to prioritize safety over all else, but it thinks that keeping your business small is safety. It thinks that working really hard on things that go nowhere is safety. It thinks distractions are safety. It thinks that bright, shiny objects and making someone else the boss of your business is safety. And so your number one job, if you are anywhere near overwhelm, is to prioritize regulating your nervous system. Regulate first. My top 3 things to regulate are walk, talk, and puppy snuggles. My practitioner-oriented things to regulate are emotional freedom technique, tapping, therapy, and havening. Literal body movements. Now, the havening that I have been using in the last few months includes working on my primitive reflexes. So sometimes it's lying on the floor on the side and literally rocking. You know how they say you're in the corner rocking in the fetal position? It's actually really good for your nervous system, or mine, according to my practitioner. Who knew? I have a nervous system massage that Davey can do on my back with a tennis ball. So it's just rolling a tennis ball down my spine and across my arms, and does it in a very specific way, in a specific order. That is very good for my nervous system. So I'm not here to provide a prescription for what your nervous system might need to regulate. Maybe you need to eat a little protein. Maybe you need a glass of water. Maybe you need to do some breath work. Maybe it is tapping for you. Maybe it's something else. But it is not staring at a computer screen trying to figure something out. It is not looking at your calendar and juggling things around. It is not going into your Asana or your ClickUp or whatever project or task management system that you use and trying to come up with the best business plan for the coming week. That is not what your brain needs, and it is not going to solve the overwhelm. So number one, regulate your nervous system. And if you don't know what works for you, your mission for this next month is to experiment with different nervous system regulation techniques and find ones that you can do and that work and you feel a physical difference. And to explore, maybe going a little outside your comfort zone when it comes to the techniques and tactics you might work with. So if you're normally someone who grabs a crystal and pulls an oracle card, I want you to work on something physical. If you're someone who normally does something very physical, I want you to do something that is more brain and logic based. If you're someone who does something normally that's very brain and logic based, I want you to maybe pull an oracle card or do something that's a little bit out there. The reason that I say this is because diversity of strategies is often the most effective. And too many of us pigeonhole ourselves as being deeply spiritual and we only use spiritual tools, or we're not spiritual, so we don't use any of those things. We're thinkers, so we have to do brain-oriented things. We are body-oriented, so we have to do body-oriented things. And chances are that potentially your go-to strategies aren't enough on their own. Let's work up a combination for you. So number one, if you are feeling overwhelmed by all the things, I want you to regulate. Now, this is where I would normally say, look, you can just do it in 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be a huge chunk of a day, but I actually want you to give yourself the time and space. This time, I'm not saying do it in 3 minutes. I'm saying you're going to waste 30 minutes looking at a cursor that's blinking at your face anyway. Why don't we just go and sit on the grass for 30 minutes and write down our feelings in a journal? Or you're going to spend 30 minutes taking and retaking that photo because you're angry at yourself and you don't like the way that your face looks because you don't look like you when you're unregulated, dysregulated. So instead of wasting time but feeling virtuous because that time was working, let's actually give yourself time and space. So I'm not going to reassure you that you can regulate in 3 minutes. Instead, I'm going to say maybe the desire to regulate within 3 minutes and you telling yourself this is my 3-minute nervous system regulation tip is actually just another symptom of your dysregulation and overwhelm. And it's time for you to give yourself the space. You deserve it. You will be able to think more clearly and it will be far more effective and long-lasting. Cortisol is messing with us. Adrenaline, messing with us. Hormones, messing with us. Your brain, messing with you, right? There's so much going on. If you're in that sense of overwhelm, it's like this is not, oh, goodness, there's a little flashing light in the distance. It's telling us that maybe a little bit of trouble is coming. Trouble is here. Trouble is here. You're already overwhelmed. So give yourself the time, space, and nervous system regulation and don't rush it, okay? Number 2, reconnect. Now, when I say reconnect, it's important that we reconnect with all of the facts. And I'm going to call them facts. It's reality. So what is your actual goal here? What's actually important? What is the reality that you are facing that is not what you want it to be? And I understand that for all of us right now, a lot of those realities are horrific. It's not a fun time for us to be alive. It is not great. I understand that. But also, we can get very detached from reality and from what's important when we are experiencing overwhelm And when we are trying to operate the same way that we did 3 years ago or 6 years ago or 30 years ago. So it's important that once you have regulated your nervous system, you take a moment to reconnect with where you are, where you want to be, and what's really important. I once had a meltdown over a $15 overcharge that ended up costing me 16 hours of productive time for $15. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't chase your $15. I'm not saying that that $15 is not important. But what I am saying is that if I had a choice at the start of that journey to say, you can get your $15 back, but it's going to cost you 16 productive hours, or you can let your $15 go and just focus on what's important to you, I probably would have made a different choice. There's one of those sayings of like, if someone steals an hour from you, don't give them the rest of your day. And that accounts for mood as well. It's not just like if someone takes an hour of your time, don't spend your whole day like talking to them, but it's also like the rest of your day is still yours. And I think that especially when we're in this state of overwhelm, we can lose sight of what's important. We lose sight of what really matters. And because we're not making good decisions, we're not in our right thinking brain, we can actually throw good money after bad. We can throw good time after bad. So instead, let's reconnect with where you are now. What is the reality that you are facing? Where is it that you want to be? What is your goal? And what is important to you here? I had a conversation with a friend recently who was struggling with an ex-partner and a co-parenting situation, and we jumped on the phone to chat about it. And I remember at one point just saying to her, well, where are the kids now? They're upstairs. Well, we could spend the next 2 hours talking about him and all the things he's done wrong, or you could spend the next 2 hours having a really fun time with your kids. What's important to you here? And I think it was such a good reminder for me as well about where I'm going to actually give my energy and attention and reconnecting with what's the priority and what's important to me. Actually, I do have another example because in March, I had so many tech issues in my business as well. I've had issues with my emails, both sending emails and receiving emails. I ended up receiving 5,500 emails in one day, but 80% of them I'd already received and read, but there was 20% of them hidden in there that I had not seen before and I had not received before. And I had to go through all of them one by one by one. That was not fun. And I also had some issues with Facebook. I wasn't able to log into my groups. I wasn't getting any notifications from my groups. I got banned from one of my student groups and had to go in via my admin account. Like, it has been a bit of a nightmare. And I realized after a few days that there were several people waiting to hear from me, and I had got their message or I had received their email. I was like, yep, I'm going to go and sort that out and I'll reply to them. And then in the process of trying to sort that out and tell them what was going on, something needed to be fixed, something else happened, something else was going on. And so I didn't get to fix it that day. The next day, I'm thinking about them. I'm working on the thing. I'm trying to get it sorted. I'm updating it. I had to redo some work for a couple of clients. Like, it really has been like, it was a very overwhelming week. Also dealing with endo flares at the same time. That was a lot of fun. And I realized after 3 days that these people thought I had ignored them for 3 days because I hadn't just replied and said, hey, I'm having some tech dramas right now, but I am working on this. I'll send you an update in a couple of days. Because in my head, I always thought I was 5 minutes away from having it sorted, or I always thought I was 5 minutes away from having an answer, and I wasn't. So in my busy/overwhelmed state, here I was thinking, gosh, I've been working on this for 3 days now trying to sort this out. And what they saw was blank, nothing. And so if I had earlier taken a step back, recognize where am I, where do I want to be, but what's really important here, I could have sent proactive communications to everyone saying, if you're waiting on something from me, just to let you know, there are some tech issues. I'm working on it. It's likely to be resolved fairly quickly. I'm hoping it will be sorted today. Please, thank you for your patience, all of those sorts of things. And so I'm not saying anyone did get angry at me. I have very, very lovely, forgiving, generous, kind, amazing clients and people in my community. But I also felt like it wasn't the standard of service that I wanted to provide, even though I was busily working on it behind the scenes. I was busily dealing with all of this tech stuff. I didn't prioritize the communication side. And if I had stopped, regulated, reconnected with what's important, the communication part would have come first. So step 1 is regulate. Step 2 is reconnect. Step 3 is refine. And my favorite question to journal on when I'm in this space is, if I could only do 3 teeny tiny steps today, what would they be and in what order? Once I've got that clear, the rest just needs to go. And when I say it needs to go, I cannot know about it, think about it, see it, be reminded of it. So when I do this exercise, I put everything on Do Not Disturb. I'm clear on what my 3 things are, and I do those 3 things without distraction. Now, often this actually brings me out of my overwhelm. If I just focus on what are the 3 teeny tiny things, if there was only 3 little things that I could do today, what would they be and in what order? Chances are, if I actually take action on those, I will come out of that overwhelm and I will feel capable and have capacity and resourcing to do more. But I don't bank on that, and I don't plan the 3 things based on that. I literally plan and write out what the 3 things are based on if I only had a teeny tiny portion of time right now and there were only 3 little things I could do, what are those top 3 and in what order? I put everything on Do Not Disturb and I do those 3 things. And then the final step is to reassure. Reassure yourself you are smart, you are kind, and you are capable. The people who are important to you, the people who matter most, are also smart, kind, and capable. When you are feeling overwhelmed, it is a powerful opportunity to collect evidence of those things. And everyone gets to collect evidence about everyone. So, the people who matter to you have an opportunity to prove to themselves that they are smart, kind, and capable. You can give them that opportunity to see evidence of themselves being smart, kind, and capable. They can also see evidence that you're smart, kind, and capable. Importantly, you can see evidence and proof that the people who matter most to you are smart and kind and capable, and that you are smart, kind, and capable. So think about it through that lens. Maybe you've made a mistake with some client work. They don't have an opportunity to be kind if you don't give them that opportunity. They don't have the opportunity to be capable if you don't give them that opportunity. Think of it this way. If you never make a mistake or let someone down, you never give anyone the opportunity to be forgiving towards you. If you never drop the ball, no one else ever gets a chance to pick it up. Oh, and on that, if you do drop the ball, can you not make it all about you? Now, this is something that it's a little bit of a bugbear of mine, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough for me to notice this pattern. And that is, let's say someone misses a deadline. And then in their apologizing for missing the deadline, they put themselves down so hard, they apologize so profusely, they make me feel like, wow, they must assume I'm like here raging against them and like totally angry, because the way that they apologize to me almost backs me into a corner. And you've probably received an apology like this before. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I feel like I've totally let you down. I'm such a failure, blah, blah, blah. And now here someone's made a mistake or someone's missed a deadline, and here I am comforting you because you're devastated about it. Like, I was the person who was let down. And so, I really want us to stand in our power here. This reassure stage of dealing with overwhelm is really about like getting back on your own 2 feet and taking responsibility and charge for your own well-being, for your own mindset, for your own self-confidence. You are smart, you are kind, you are capable. And sometimes you get overwhelmed, and that is absolutely fine. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you're going to let people down, and give us all the opportunity to just say, all good, and move forward. And let's not dwell and wallow and, try and center ourselves as the mistake maker or the ball dropper. Give people an opportunity to pick up the ball and say, here, you dropped this, I've got it, and move on with your lives. I just feel like at these times in this economy, life is far too short for us to turn what could be a blip into a giant downward spiral and take other people with us. We're human, we make mistakes, we drop the ball, we give people around us the opportunity to help us through, we give people the opportunity around us to be kind and to forgive us, and then we all just get on with our lives and let it be the blip that it was. So that is my 4-step process. Number 1, regulate. And that for me always comes first. As the spectacular Claire Kerslake says, mindset first. Regulating first for me means that how I respond to that overwhelm is going to be very smart, very strategic, and far more effective than if I try and do it while I'm still dysregulated. Time and space is needed. Look after yourself. Number 2, reconnect with what's really important here. What is the reality of where you are? Where do you want to be instead? And what's important to you? Number 3 is refine. Refine your task list down to the 3 teeny tiny things that you would do if that's all you could do. What are they? What's the order? Do them in order. And number 4, reassure. You are smart, you're kind, you're capable. This is a blip. You got overwhelmed. Everything is fine. Let's move on with our lives. And for me, doing this and practicing this and really building this as a skill set allows me to get faster at doing it, and also allows me to recognize when that overwhelm might be coming as that little flashing beacon in the distance before it's a giant like panic stations moment that's here already. And so I can just address it and be more in preventative mode. If the thing that is overwhelming you most often or most recently is money, then I'd love to invite you to come and step into the gym. The gym, you say? What is the gym? Well, it is GYM, Get Your Money. For those of you who are familiar with my progress art, I'm running a live round of a progress art program in May and June of 2026, and we're calling it the Progress Art Gym because you're gonna get your money. You can find all of the details in the link in the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/526. And you'll need to jump in sooner rather than later because doors close on the 27th of April so that we can do our setup and preparation calls. And for 2 months, focus on getting your money. So come and join me in the gym where we never skip leg day. You'll find out what that means when you're inside the program. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now.